modification of phonemes in connected speech. We are going to explore such points as the mechanism of articulate retransition of phonemes in connected speech, the modifications of consonants in connected speech. They are assimilation, accommodation, elision, and insertion. And then we'll speak about modifications of vowels in connected speech. First of all, we should speak about the articulation of speech sound when it's said in isolation. It consists of three stages. The first is the on-glide stage, when the articulating organs move to the position necessary for the articulation of the sound. It is called excursion. The next stage is the hold stage, when the articulating organs are kept in the position for a certain period of time. It is retention. The off-glide stage, when the articulating organs return to the position of rest, it is recursion. For example, the on-glide of sound T pronounced in isolation is the contact formed by the tip of the tongue placed against the teeth ridge. During the hold stage, the A is compressed behind the closure. During the explosion stage, the organs following the obstruction part rapidly and the compressed air escapes abruptly. Speech sounds are seldom said by themselves. They are used in combination with other sounds in connected speech. In the process of speech, the articulatory organs are moving continuously and the sounds mostly merge one into another. In connected speech, the sounds are subjected to two main types of influence. The reciprocal influence of neighboring sounds are called combinative changes. The influence of sounds by larger speech units and their elements, for example stress, so they are positional changes. The majority of changes of sounds in connected speech are combinative. The sounds are modified by other sounds. They lose their clearness and some peculiarities of their articulation, gaining some new articulatory features. As a result of mutual interaction of speech sounds in connected speech, there is a number of phonetic processes such as assimilation, accommodation, elision, and others. First, let's consider what assimilation is. Assimilation is a process of alternation of speech sounds as a result of which one of the sounds becomes fully or partially similar to the adjoining sound. For example, the alveolar T followed by the interdental Th becomes dental. For example, in such words as AIDS or AIDS3. Types of assimilation can be distinguished according to direction, according to degree of completeness, and the degree of stability. So, according to direction of assimilation, there is progressive assimilation. Assimilation is called progressive when some articulatory features of the former sound are changed under the influence of the preceding sound, which remains unchanged. For example, dogs, the word pets. Here we see that the plural suffix s of nouns depends on the quality of the preceding consonant. It is pronounced as s after voiced consonants and s after voiceless consonants. The next assimilation is regressive, so when the following sound influences the articulation of the preceding one. For example, the post-alveolar z before sh. So here we see the pronunciation dashi. The next assimilation is reciprocal or double when there is a complex mutual influence of the adjacent sounds. For example, let's take the word tree. The sonorant r is partly divorced under the influence of the voiceless t, and the alveolar t becomes post-alveolar before the post-alveolar r. The next classification is according to the degree of completeness. Here we'll speak about complete and incomplete type of assimilation. So, assimilation is called complete when the two adjoining sounds become alike or merge into one. Let's take the words less shy, covered. Assimilation is called incomplete when the likeness of the adjoining sounds is partial. Example, place. The sonorant l here is partly divorced when preceded by the voiceless part is p within a word. The next classification of assimilation according to degree of its stability. Here we see obligatory cases of assimilation and non-obligatory cases of assimilation. The first, obligatory cases of assimilation, concern historical changes taking place over a period of time within words, and non-obligatory cases of assimilation can be traced mainly at word boundaries. They are characteristic of fluent or careless speech and should be avoided by public speakers. Assimilation can affect the place of obstruction and the active organ of speech, the work of the vocal cords, the position of the lips, the position of the soft palate, the manner of the release of plosive consonants. Modification of the place of obstruction and the active organ of speech. So the alveolar allophones of sounds t, d, n, l, s, or z are replaced by the dental variants when followed by the interdental sounds th or the. For example, in such words as tenth, breadth, or the book, that seam. The post-alveolar t or d are heard before the post-alveolar sonant r. For example, we see in such words as dream, tree, at rest. The bilabial nasal m or the alveolar nasal n become labiodental under the influence of following labiodental fricatives f, v. Let's take examples. Such words as conflict, ten forks, infant. The second one is changes in the work of the vocal cords. Now we'll see voicing and devoicing. So the sonorants m, n, l, w, r, and i are partially devoiced when preceded by voiceless consonants s, p, t, k, f, sh. For example, let's take such words as place, fly, small, try, pure, twilight. The suffix ed of regular verbs, it is pronounced as d after all voiced consonants except d and after all vowel sounds. For example, in such words as stay or lived, and it is pronounced as sound t after all voiceless consonants except t. For example, worked, we pronounce stopped. The plural suffix s of nouns, it is pronounced as z after all voiced consonants except z, zh, and after all vowel signs. For example, pencils, rooms, doors. And it is pronounced as s after all voiceless consonants except s or sh. Maps, for example, in such words books. The next point is, we'll speak about changes in the lip position. Consonants, especially t, d, k, g, and s, followed by the sonorant w, become lip rounded. For example, we see in such words as language, twin, dwell, 12, quiet. Changes in the position of the soft palate. Sometimes d changes into n under the influence of the preceding n. For example, in the word handmade. This type of assimilation is not typical of English. Assimilative changes in the manner of the release of plosive consonants, and the main variants are incomplete plosion or loss of plosion, nasal plosion, lateral plosion, fricative plosion. So let's speak about loss of plosion or incomplete plosion. It takes place when, in the sequence of two plosive consonants, the former loses its plosion. For example, let's take words glad to see you, great trouble, good case, bad chance. The first stop has no plosion. Nasal plosion is produced when a plosive p, b, t, d, k, or g is followed by nasal sonants m and n, and it has no release of its own. For example, in words button, paid money, happen, shipmate, at night. In such sequences, the release is produced not by a removal of the oral closure, but by the lowering of the soft palate, which allows the compressed air to escape through the nasal cavity. So the next plosion is lateral. In the sequence of a plosive followed by the lateral sonant l, the noise production of the plosive stop is changed into that of the lateral stop. For example, let's see such words as settle, table, plan, good looks, at last. Before the release is made by sudden lowering of the sides of the tongue, and the air escapes along the sides of the tongue with a lateral plosive. Fricative plosive. It is formed in the sequence of plosives p, b, t, d, k, g, and fricatives s and z. The plosive is realized at the moment of forming narrowing. For example, stops, that zone. The term accommodation is often used by linguists to denote the interchanges of vowel plus consonant type or consonant plus vowel type. For instance, some slight degree of nasalization of vowels preceded or followed by nasal sonorants, never or man, or labialization of consonants preceding the vowels o and u in Russian, in such words as думать or лучше. In English, under the influence of the neighboring back vowels, for example, pool or moon. Elision, or complete loss of sounds, both vowels and consonants, is often observed in English. Elision is likely to be minimal in slow, careful speech and not small in rapid, relaxed, colloquial forms of speech. For example, write, listen, strict teacher, next day. While the elision is a very common process in connected speech, there are sounds that could be inserted. When a word which ends in a vowel is followed by another word beginning with a vowel, the so-called intrusive R is sometimes pronounced between the vowels. For example, we pronounce Asia and Africa. The so-called Lincoln R is a common example of insertion in such words as clearer, a teacher of English. In case of the U-glotting diphthongs O and OW, the bilabial sound of web is sometimes inserted, going. When the word final vowel is a diphthong which glots to E, such as I, A, the palatal sound of E tends to be inserted. For example, saying, trying. Thus, insertion occurs in a connected speech in order to facilitate the process of articulation for the speaker, and not as a way of providing extra information for the listener. So now let's speak about reduction. Reduction is a historical process of weakening, shortening, or disappearance of vowel sounds in unstressed positions. It reflects the process of lexical and grammatical changes. For example, board, blackboard, the shortening of the vowel lengths, man, postman. The realization of reduction, as well as assimilation and accommodation, is connected with the style of speech. In rapid colloquial speech, reduction may result in vowel elision, the complete omission of the unstressed vowel, which is also known as zero reduction. Zero reduction is likely to occur in a sequence of unstressed syllables. For example, we'll see elision in such words: history, factory, territory. It often occurs in initial unstressed syllables preceding the stressed one. For example, in such words: correct, believe, suppose, perhaps. The neutral sound represents the reduced form of vowel or diphthong in the unstressed position. Project, project. The vowel sounds of the two related words are, in contrast, because of the different stress. Reduction is closely connected not only with the word stress, but also with rhythm and sentence stress. Reduction is realized in unstressed syllables, so in words, in unstressed form words, auxiliary and modal verbs, personal and possessive pronouns within phrases. For example, they can stay. There are three types of reduction: quantitative reduction, shortening of vowel sound in the unstressed position. It affects many long vowels. For example, he, we, and reduced forms he, we. The next type of reduction is qualitative. It is obscuration of vowels towards e, and u. It affects long and short vowels. For example, can, but you can do it. And the next type of reduction is elision of vowels in the unstressed position. For example, let's take the sentence, we shall work. So, modifications of sounds in speech chain are of allophonic character. That is, they are realizations of allophones of phonemes. Thank you.